What's going on, everyone? So, the Oklahoma City Thunder are such a young, fun, exciting team. And this is a team that has been very good this year. And I am so excited. To me, I think the Thunder could be hoisting a championship in like the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even sooner, depending on how things shape up, what type of trades and moves that they make. They have like an insane, like unfathomable amount of draft picks. They have something like 30 or 35 first round picks or something like that over the next like 5 years or 7 years. It's just crazy. And obviously, at some point, they're going to start making some moves. They're going to start making some trades to try and acquire another star that makes sense next to SGA, next to Chet Holmgren, who Chet Holmgren has been ridiculous this year. I understand he's technically in his second year. I get that, yes, that he's in his rookie season, but he has gotten experience just basketball training, being on the bench, working with NBA guys, working in practices, all kinds of stuff that have been very beneficial for him. And you're seeing that translate extremely well this season. SGA is putting on another, MVP level type of season. They are currently the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. And look, as much as I love the Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't really buy them as a true contending team, right? I don't think that they're there yet. I think that they kind of still need that like third guy, that other guy that could really just kind of make the impact, or that other like star, like two-way star. But they could make other trades that kind of put them in that position as they wait and continue to be patient. I think Sam Presti's doing an excellent job. You're not jumping the gun. They didn't like jump the gun to go get like a Donovan Mitchell or anything like that, right? They're waiting. They're seeing what they got. They have a nice young talent, nice young core. But ultimately, I think at some point they're going to need to not make the big grand slam type of trade, but make that like, okay, here's the first step in us being just a potential dynasty at some point, right? And just getting like that all-star level player that can come in that would make sense, that would fit in, fit a role, fit a need. As far as like why I don't really buy the Thunder as like a true contender, I think one is lack of experience. I think, you saw it with the Thunder with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, right? You saw that they didn't make the playoffs, and then they are a first round team, and then they're a second round team, and then they're in the conference finals, and then they're in the finals. And it was like, if they just paid James Harden, they probably would have won a championship or two. And I hope that Sam Presti learned from his mistakes from that experience, and he eventually, does and keeps the pieces that he needs to keep in order to go and potentially be and win multiple championships. I mean, outside of like the Spurs because of Victor Wembanyama, I think the Thunder, and you can argue the Magic, because the Magic have been very good this year, are like the two teams that I think have the best young talent and best young core. I thought the Pistons were going to be up there. And not, I still thought the Thunder, like I still think personally, and this is just me, I personally think the Thunder have the best like future thus far. I don't think the Orlando Magic are very far behind. But I really thought like the Pistons would be like kind of in that third slot, and they just been terrible this year. The only reason I have the Spurs up there is just because I just think the Spurs, they just have what looks to be, I mean, by every stretch of the imagination, that transcending star. But the Thunder, their lack of experience, I think, is an issue. And then also they're not very good with the sizable physical teams. Like I think if they ran into a Denver, they'd get ran through. I think if they ran into a Minnesota Timberwolves team, I think they get ran through. I think even if they ran into like a Lakers team in a 7-game series, I think that they would end up losing to a team like that. But I wouldn't be surprised, the right matchup, they make it to the second round or something in the playoffs. I think that they're a team that could definitely do that, right? Like, let's say they played, like, I think that they have the potential to beat like a Pelicans team or like a Kings team, right? Maybe even a Clippers team, depending on, again, how things shape up. But I really do think that if Utah is serious about trading Lauri Markkanen, I think that he makes a world of sense for the Thunder. Not as the grand slam, like, oh, we just traded for Joel Embiid type thing, but as like that, like, okay, he fits, he's an all-star level guy that could come in, that wouldn't disrupt Chet and SGA, fits a need, fits a role, gives us more size, helps with some rebounding, like things like that. Like, I think Lauri Markkanen makes a world of sense for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he slots in. You could slot him in at the 4 if you wanted to, in spots where you're playing Chet, maybe at the 5. You could slot him at the 3 spot and kind of have some size out on the perimeter. The Thunder, with their pace and floor spacing, I think he fits right in. He's a guy that he doesn't need the ball, right? Like Lauri Markkanen, he doesn't have to take 15 dribbles to go and be effective and impact the game, right? He's excellent off the ball. He can knock down the 3 at an efficient clip, right? He's a guy that go give you 20 to 30 on any given night, right? Like, you look at the last 2 years with the Utah Jazz, right? We'll start with this year. In 17 games so far, he's shooting 49% from the field on 16.4 attempts. He's shooting 39% from 3 on 8.3 attempts. He's shooting 59% on 2-point attempts on 8.1, right? He's averaging 23.5 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 1 block. That would be more than welcomed on the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And if you look at last year with the Utah Jazz, where that was like his real coming out party, right? So 66 games, again, shot 17 attempts, 50% from the field, 39.1% from 3 on 7.7 attempts. He's actually shooting more threes this year and still shooting the same percentage. He was shooting 58.5% from 2-point range. So he's actually been more efficient this year than he was last year. And you look at his point total, 25.6 points, 8.6 rebounds, 1.9 assists, a steal and a block. Again, that would be greatly valued. And another thing I've seen a lot of people like say is like, oh, well, Lauri Markkanen, he's on a Utah Jazz team that's terrible, right? So of course he's going to put up a bunch of points, and like, what has he done prior? Which I don't know if it's just people that are just unfamiliar with Lauri Markkanen until last year where he made the All-Star, or what. But like, every year except for 1 year, he's basically averaged minimum 15 points. In 2020, 2021, he averaged 13.6 points, right? And that was in a bench role. That was in a reserve role, not starting like he was in previous years. Every year outside of that, it's been 14.8 to 15.2 points, or he's averaged 18, 25, and 23. So I don't know where people got that from. Like, Lauri Markkanen, as your best player, you're not winning a championship. He's not a number 1 guy. Lauri Markkanen, maybe even as your number 2 player, isn't, you're probably not winning a championship, right? Unless you just have this like ridiculous core around it. But Lauri Markkanen as like your third option is like a supercharged third option because of how efficient he is shooting the 3 ball, his size, which you can't teach size. You can't stretch people out, right? You can't teach 7 feet. And his ability and impact to play off the ball, as well as his ability to just shoot and hit at an effective clip, I think is everything the Thunder need right now. Again, you still need, at some point, you're going to very likely have those like bigger moves, maybe, potentially later on down the road. But this is a move that I think is a step in the right direction, right? Like, something like, you look at like the Cavs, nice young core, had a great season, and then it was like, okay, well, let's make a real big push. Let's make a big splash. Let's go trade for Donovan Mitchell. And it was just silly. It was silly, right? They jumped the gun rather than staying patient and waiting for the right move, right? They could have went and traded for a solid piece that maybe made sense. And it's funny that they traded Lauri Markkanen and he was actually exactly what they needed last year. But nonetheless, right? You've seen teams like Atlanta. Atlanta makes the conference finals. They go and they, try to expedite it and go get Jonte Murray, thinking like that's the piece that they need. And they've been a play-in team since. The Thunder need to be smart here. I think Lauri Markkanen is a smart move. I don't think Lauri Markkanen is one of those moves that's like, like the Donovan Mitchell, where it's like, oh, you're trying to get a star and it's just not the right star and it just doesn't really make sense. And now it's just you basically you jumped the gun for a piece that just was basically a net neutral for you, right? Because it didn't elevate you to a contender or anything like that, right? And it's not like a DeJounte Murray move or anything. Like I think Lauri Markkanen, he fits their timeline. He fits the type of offense that they run and fits a need and a role. And I just think Lauri Markkanen on the Thunder would just be, I think he'd be A1. I really do. I think Lauri Markkanen on the Thunder would make a lot of sense and would be a real impact player. Again, I don't think he's the guy that like all of a sudden puts them over the top. I think he makes them better. I think he can make them a real conversation. I wouldn't even be surprised if he like wins them a game in the playoffs or whatever because he just goes off for 30 or something. But he's like, again, he's a move to continue the timeline and trajectory in which you are going, right? You trade, 2 firsts or whatever for Lauri Markkanen or whatever it takes to get him. And then you still have more first round picks and young talent than like everyone else. And you wait for that like Joel Embiid or whatever. And now you got this like souped up charged super team with like, again, just using Joel Embiid as an example. But, let's say if Philly doesn't get another star or anything, or, if Philly loses in the first or second round this year, don't be shocked if Joel Embiid asks out. But we're just using him as an example. Right? So let's say he becomes available. If you're the Thunder, like that's the type of move you make. You go get Joel Embiid. Now you got Embiid, you got Chet, you got SGA, and you got Lauri Markkanen. Good luck beating that team. Like seriously, good luck beating that team. You're not beating that team. Right? If everyone's healthy and everyone's good, even with the question marks with Joel Embiid and how he can disappear at times, like that team would be terrifying. If they can mesh and work, then that would be terrifying. And now you're really contending for multiple championships at that point. But I think Lauri Markkanen is that guy that just makes sense. He fits, even if you go get that third star or you go get that like number 1 or number 2 guy for you, right? Like again, if you got like a Joel Embiid. Lauri Markkanen, because he's a guy that doesn't need the basketball in his hands. He doesn't have to take 20 dribbles. He doesn't have to create his own offense. You can do it for him and he's going to be efficient and effective. I think that's the kind of guy that would just fit in seamlessly for the Thunder. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think like, yeah, Lauri Markkanen, that's the guy. Got to go get him if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do you think no? There's other options out there. Be patient. Continue to wait. Obviously, price is everything. Like if Utah wants like 4 firsts for Lauri Markkanen or 5 firsts or something crazy, like they want to go bear trade, then stay away. Leave it alone. But I think if you can get him, even if you have to slightly overpay, you just have so many assets. I think it's worth it. But do you feel the same way? Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.